So this is how the professionals cut their wood, okay? Watch this. Perfect cut every time. Hello everybody, my name's Stevie Marchant and this is my wood shop. Today we're going to go through some handsaw basics, this thing up here. Now the first thing you're probably going to realise about a handsaw is that they are quite sharp. So be careful with the teeth, don't chop anybody with them or anything like that. The second thing to know is that the teeth cut on the forward action. So when you're cutting wood, you're putting the pressure in the forward cutting motion, not when you're bringing it back. The back stroke is purely just to get your hand back into the position ready to cut again. So when you're cutting wood, you're putting the pressure downwards and forwards on your saw, so the teeth cut on the forward stroke and not on the back stroke, basically. So today I'm going to be demonstrating on this piece of scrap 2x4 here. You know it's scrap because I've left all the mess on there from when it was glued to something else. And you'll soon learn about me that I'm a complete tight arse and I like to salvage wood wherever I can, even if I've used it in another project. Okay, so one of the first things you're going to need is a square, then a pencil. So when using a square, you need to make sure this lip at the bottom here is as tight as it can be on the bottom or the flat edge of the piece of wood that you're cutting. So you use the bottom of your hand to hold the square in place. I'm going to just pick a random place for my mark. Get your pencil and there's your line. So that'll be a 90-degree line. I don't know if you can see that line on there. So once you have your line, you take it over to wherever you're going to be cutting it. Mine is over on this workbench over here, so I'll take you over there. And here I am. So ideally, you'd have something to butt the wood up against. I've got this pocket hole jig screwed down here, which is handy. Butt it up against there and hold it down, putting all your weight onto the board. Then you grab your saw and you just want to make sure the blade is lining up with the line. Put the saw forward and drag it backwards a bit just to make that initial groove. Now you notice it doesn't cut very well when you're pulling it back, a very slight indentation. Drag it back a couple of times just so the saw knows where it's supposed to go. Once you've embedded the line in there, you can just, and notice I'm doing this very slowly. Let the saw do all the work. You don't need to apply very much downward pressure at all. Like I said, let the saw do the work. It knows what it's doing. And there you have it. A nice straight 90-degree cut on the end of your wood there. Wait a minute. What time is it? It's coffee time! Okie dokie. So that's cutting a piece of wood. I know, this is fantastic YouTube content right here, isn't it? Now you know how to cut a piece of wood with a saw. So now we've done a 90-degree cut, you can also do 45-degree cuts on there using the same tool, the speed square. Unfortunately you can't do this on a carpenter's square because they are just L-shaped, they're at a right angle. Good thing about carpenter's squares is they have a perfect 45-degree angle on it. And here's a trick for you. On most handsaws nowadays, there's a small 90-degree marking there and 45-degree marking there, which means that if you hold the saw to a piece of wood this way, then that along the blade will be 90 degrees. Similarly, if you hold the piece of wood onto this part here, the blade will create a 45-degree rule for you. And I'll just demonstrate that now for you. Okay, so back at our piece of wood. So we've got our carpenter's square. Same again, we're going to, this side this time, we're going to put the ridged end, the ledged end, up against the flat edge of the wood. Use our pencil and simply going to draw a line along that straight edge. I changed pencil, that's a much better line this time. So there we have our 45-degree angle, and it is exactly the same method as before. So when you clamp it to the bench, I find it easier if I set the wood at an angle so the cutting line is still straight to my body. If you hold it like this, you have to position yourself a bit weirdly and cut into your bench, and yeah, you don't want that. So let's do that again with the handsaw. So remember I said that the handsaw has a 45-degree mark on it, so we'll set that point there. So the 45-degree section of the handsaw handle is butted up against your plank of wood. As you draw along the back of the blade of the saw, that'll make a 45-degree angle. And we can check that on with the square just to see if it's an accurate angle. Maybe 1 degree off. Close enough for government work. And there you have it. So when you cut your lines on the board here, you'll notice that you know you've got it spot on because your pencil line will disappear because the teeth of the saw have eaten it away. And there we have it. And that will give you this type of cut. So you'll notice there's rough bits around the edges, bits of the wood are flaking off, partly because it's pine, it's soft wood, and partly because it's pretty much what's known as a first fix saw. So it's designed to cut the wood fast rather than smoothly. Now for more precise cuts, cleaner cuts, you want to use a finer toothed blade. For example, this tenon saw up here. You can see the teeth are a lot smaller and a lot duller on mine. And these are for, like I say, more precise cuts, a nice finer surface and a little bit more accurate as well. Now all the saws I'm going to show you today, or I have shown you, are relatively cheap. They're, say, less than £10. This one here, this one, as you can see, Work Zone, came from Aldi. I think it was £5.99 and it came with a mitre box as well. So all relatively inexpensive. So this one here is a dovetail saw. As you can see, it's got extremely fine teeth on there. So that is, as the name suggests, used for cutting dovetails, which are very tight and close fitting. So you need a very thin blade, very fine teeth for a smooth cut. Also used for finger joints and box joints, things like that. And the next one I'm going to show you is a hacksaw. Now, I know hacksaws are predominantly used for cutting metal. That's because of the very fine teeth on there. But if you take a look, the teeth are so fine, you can cut a dowel with those, a very thin piece of wood. In fact, so these very thin strips of wood I cut recently to make I think it was a roof to a house, a little wooden house, and I used the hacksaw for that because the teeth are so fine, it hardly leaves any, it doesn't leave any mark on there at all. So you can get a very fine cut with a hacksaw. And the last saw I'm going to show you today is a flush trim saw. You'll see it's got a very flexible blade and very kindly they've written this side up on the actual blade. I don't know if you can see that. This side up. And that's because the cutting angle requires the blade to be flat on this side as you cut. The honed edges are on the tops there. And this one is used for if you use dowels to either conceal screws or in place of screws. A lot of people use dowel joints to join two pieces of wood together, and you want the surface to be flush afterwards. It's very great for riding along the top of a surface of wood. So the saw will sit on like that, and you can cut along the top surface of the wood to cut the dowel away without digging into the piece. And they're all the saws that I own. You probably mostly won't need to use a handsaw, as most power tools are relatively inexpensive these days. You can pick up a circular saw for about £20. That being said, there are plenty of people out there who much prefer to use hand tools, either because they prefer the feel of the tool, the satisfaction they get that they can say they've done the entire project themselves with no help from power tools or electrical equipment. Some people don't have power to their workshop, where if you work in an outdoor shed, a garage, if you do most of your work outside, then hand tools are going to be a lot easier. You don't have cables trailing around, you don't have to worry about finding a plug socket anywhere. That's all there is to this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Press the like button. You can subscribe to this channel to see more of my videos in the future. I'll be releasing new woodworking videos every Monday. And I'll see you all again next Monday. Bye bye!